high reaching 62. Now on Sunday, we stay mild with a high of 61, but we get more clouds and a 30% chance of some afternoon showers. Cooler temps ahead for next week. I'm Kevin Cohen with your on-point local weather.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
From the Bart Fireside Studio, the solution for keeping you warm this winter.
This is 107 The Point.
Ooh, I like when you press that one.
This is Sports Talk with Phil Kornblum, Chris Bergen, and Pat Daniel. Sports Talk is heard across the state on radio affiliates of the Sports Talk Media Network and is streaming live on SportsTalkSC.com, as well as Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. The South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number to call in is 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now, here are Phil, Chris, and Pat with tonight's edition of Sports Talk.
All right, welcome in, everybody, and good Friday night to you. Welcome into the weekend. Great to have you with us here tonight on Sports Talk across the state here on the Sports Talk Media Network. This is where people come to visit in the sports world every night from 6 to 8. We welcome you in. We look forward to hearing from you tonight. What a day in the news world of sports. Right here in the state of South Carolina, this was a day that you would call a smoking kind of day, with news popping about every half hour or so. Our website, SportsTalkSC.com, loaded up with stories from today. If you haven't checked it out, feel free to do so. We'll go over everything in just a moment and hit on the big stuff and take your phone calls about the things that have happened today and your thoughts on those things. The phone number is 888-898-2525, South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number. Love to have you through to us tonight. We'll take your phone calls throughout. We'll talk about things that have happened today. We'll talk about the basketball coming up tomorrow. South Carolina playing home against Tennessee. Clemson playing road against Pittsburgh. Tigers trying to go to 5-0 in the ACC. That is rare air for Clemson basketball to be 5-0. And standing alone atop the ACC, should they win that game tomorrow. Take a picture of it. Take a picture of the standings, if indeed it happens. But Pittsburgh, like Clemson, is having a pretty magical start to ACC play. And I'm sure the Panthers feel like they can win that game tomorrow just as much as Clemson feels like they can win that game tomorrow. Should be a pretty wild one. South Carolina, Tennessee. Tennessee, of course, an excellent team, a team you have to consider to be one of the 2 or 3 favorites in the SEC and a team that can make a deep run in the NCAA tournament come March. So looking forward to seeing Rick Barnes and his group in Columbia tomorrow. So basketball is big. Of course, NFL wraps up the regular season. We'll talk about what the league is going to be doing related to the playoffs. DeMar Hamlin, the news continues to be very, very good, as the tube has been removed. And today he did a FaceTime with his team for a few minutes, and he's making extremely good progress. So I think, at least from an outsider standpoint, but listening to his doctors last night as they did a press conference, it certainly seems like he is, I guess, can we safely say, out of the woods and turned the corner and is now making great strides toward a full recovery and getting back to normal, whatever his normal is going to be with his situation. I do hope that they will, with the family's permission, of course, disclose eventually the cause of this. Was it the hit that he took, or was there some underlying condition that he had that people did not know about? And that cannot be discounted at this point. So we got all that to talk about. The phone number, 888-898-2525. So today, the South Carolina Board of Trustees approved a new contract, an extension for Shane Beamer. Beamer will earn an average of $6.5 million per season in this new contract. Chris Lowe of ESPN was the first one this afternoon to put it together and have the details of what the contract was going to have in it. And then later on, the board met and approved the contract. So it's $6.5 million on average per season through 2027. So now he's back at a 5-year deal. And that's the highest average salary ever paid to a Gamecock head coach. His 23 salary will be $6.125 million. He'll receive $250,000 annual raise through the life of the contract. And of course, there are other incentives built into the contract. Beamer was making $2.75 million this season. He was the lowest paid head coach in the SEC based on published salaries. Vanderbilt, as a private school, does not have to reveal the salaries of their coaches. Beamer's new contract will make him the league's 9th highest paid coach, according to Lowe. And the buyouts in his contract remain unchanged from his original deal. Beamer has led the Gamecocks to a 15-11 record, back-to-back bowl trips in his first 2 seasons. The Gamecocks were 4-4 in the SEC this season, 3rd place in the East. Beamer's first USC team was 3-5 in the SEC, making his 2-year conference mark 7-9. Among the highlight victories this year, back-to-back top 10 wins over Tennessee and Clemson, first ever win over Texas A&M, and a victory over a ranked Kentucky team in Lexington. By comparison, Beamer's predecessor, Will Muschamp, went 15-11, 8-8 in the SEC in his first 2 seasons. He also received a raise and a new contract, which included a hefty buyout after going 9-4 in year 2. The school later was forced to pay Muschamp close to $13 million in a buyout when he was fired during the 2020 season. Today, the school also announced that Lonnie Teasley is the new offensive line coach. He'll be paid $410,000 per season in a 2-year contract. He was serving as an offensive analyst when he had to replace Greg Atkins during the season for health reasons. Atkins returned to some of his duties late in the season, but Teasley continued most of the hands-on work with the offensive linemen. And the school also rewarded defensive coordinator Clayton White, running backs coach Montario Hardesty, defensive line coach Jimmy Lindsey, defensive ends coach Sterling Lucas, and secondary coach Torian Gray with new deals. So that is the story. That's the overview on South Carolina and Shane Beamer. And I would say that, South Carolina's got a good deal here with Shane Beamer, considering that he's still not among the highest paid coaches in the SEC, though he's only 2 years in. Everything is, of course, market driven. It's what the market pushes it to. And of course, I guess what your agent can squeeze out of you. But they basically got the first 2 years out of Beamer for nothing. And remember, when he took the job, his agent wanted him to hold out for more money. And Beamer said, no, I'm taking the job. I'm taking the offer that they have given me. It's a fair offer. I'll earn my money later. I'm paraphrasing there. I'm not quoting. I'll earn my money later. And that's what he has done. So it sounds like a reasonable deal. It sounds like in today's world of what college football coaches are making, it seems like a fair deal based on the return so far. Enthusiasm for Gamecock football is very high. Their ticket sales are high. And, of course, it doesn't hurt that the SEC is drowning. Is that a good word? The SEC is drowning in money from their television contract, and that's what is driving, of course, a lot of these football and all coaches' contracts, football, basketball, assistant coaches. That's why they're able to pay them what they're able to pay them, because of the money they're getting in from television. So the other thing, too, is South Carolina has not tied its hands with an exorbitant buyout here, should it come to that at some point in time, unlike what they had with Will Muschamp. So that remains good. And vice versa, Beamer is not handicapped by some huge buyout should he want to get out of the contract for some reason down the road, though I really don't see that happening. So it looks like a terrific marriage between South Carolina and Shane Beamer, and a deal that makes a lot of sense for everybody involved. He's obviously happy. Ray Tanner's obviously happy. And the Board of Trustees signed off on it after taking a look at it. And they've got their man now locked up for the next 5 years. Of course, these contracts are written in pencil because if the Gamecocks have a big year next year, it'll be rewritten next year, and so on and so forth. You reward coaches, even though you have them under contract, you kind of look at it year by year. You don't ever take money away, but if they have that magical year, if they do something that next year, that's just, incredible, win the division, win the league championship, you rewrite that contract and you make them even richer. So looks like a good deal all the way around, and everybody seems to be happy about it. And Lonnie Teasley taking over as the full-time offensive line coach, that seems to be a good situation for all involved as well. So that was the news coming out of South Carolina today. Meantime, at Clemson, you had two of their defensive linemen declare for the Tigers, declaring that they're coming back for another season. So you got defensive tackles Tyler Davis and Rook Orororo announcing today, within minutes of each other, that they will return for the 2023 season and not enter the NFL draft. However, reserve defensive tackle Etanosa Rubin reportedly has put his name in the portal John to be flushed out. The announcements by Davis and Orororo joining those of defensive end Xavier Thomas, safety Jalen Phillips, and cornerback Sheridan Jones earlier this week, I think puts the Tigers on the plus side defensively from their roster standpoint, as the revolving door has been turning since the end of the season. This will help to offset the departures of defensive ends Myles Murphy, KJ Henry, and linebacker Trenton Simpson. Is it an even swap? Not necessarily, but it does keep the Tigers. Oh, I should also put in there Brian Bresee and his departure. It does kind of help ease the sting of those guys leaving early by having two guys who will be right there to anchor the middle of your defensive front. And then you've got two guys who will be back in the secondary, helping to contain things back there. Davis, of course, an excellent player. First team All-ACC, second team All-American, semifinalist for the Bigneric Award, a team captain, finished the season with 31 tackles, 9.5 tackles for loss, 5.5 sacks. Roro was a third team All-ACC choice, 23 tackles on the season, 8 tackles for loss, 4 sacks. Rubin played mostly as a reserve defensive tackle this season. He appeared in 8 games and made just 1 tackle after playing in 12 games and actually having a presence on the defensive line last year. Not so much this year. All right, so that's the story coming out of Clemson today. Now, back to South Carolina. Marshawn Lloyd has found his next stop. Doesn't have to change up a whole lot of his lettering. He's going to USC the Junior. That's right, USC the Junior. The younger USC, not the original, not the first, not the leader in USC's in terms of being the first one to be called USC. He's going out to Southern Cal. He announced that today, that he'll be transferring to Southern Cal. He announced his departure from the Gamecocks on December 12th, but until today had not mentioned anything about his future plans. At first, it was thought likely he'd be headed to the University of Maryland near his Delaware home and his high school, DeMatha, in Hyattsville, Maryland. But whatever interest there might have been there never played out. But whatever interest there might have been there, too many theirs close together. But whatever interest there might have been there never played out. Lloyd missed his first season at USC with a torn ACL, and he was hampered by injuries in his final season. He finished his career in 20 games at USC, rushing for 801 yards and 10 touchdowns. In 20 games, 801 yards and 10 touchdowns. By my math, that's roughly 40 yards a game. Is that right? Yeah, 40 yards a game. So, and he caught 21 passes for 220 yards and 2 touchdowns. So Marshawn Lloyd, I mean, let's face it, you look at him and he's got a ton of talent, and he did some good things at South Carolina, but his numbers weren't great. for his time that he was able to be on the field at South Carolina. Again, granting that he had to deal with some injuries this year that cost him basically the last quarter of the season, and he missed all that freshman year. But by all accounts, he's a good guy and a hard worker. He's got abilities. He's got talent. And he's headed out to Southern Cal, where the lights are brighter and the gas is higher. So enjoy spending your NIL dollars on $6 a gallon for gas in your Maserati. Probably cost you $200 to fill that thing up. Okay, so we got that going on, and we talked about the Beamer deal. We talked about the Clemson guys, and we got some recruiting to share with you as well coming up. So it's been a busy, busy day, and love to get your thoughts on it. Coming up at 7:30, we turn our attention to the world of golf and the world of conditioning, birdies and bogeys and biceps around South Carolina. George Bryan III, Rob Thames will join us, and we'll be talking with them beginning at 7:30. When we come back from the break, though, we'll get into your phone calls. Go ahead and dial us up, 888-898-2525. That's the lottery's lucky number to Sports Talk. More than 2.1 million lottery-funded scholarships since 2002 have been funded by the lottery, such as Life, Hope, and Palmetto Fellows. So learn more about the lottery's impact at sceducationlottery.com/education wins. And playing for fun is a win for education. Chris Bergen is up in Morgantown, West Virginia. He's going to join us as well at about 6:45, and we'll be back.
Think big, life-changing. I'm talking education, inventive, next-level education. Wake up. For 20 years, education has received billions in funding. Where, you ask? Right here, across our state, in your own backyard. Who has done this? Well, if you've ever played the lottery, that would be you. Thank you. The South Carolina Education Lottery. When you play, we all win.
Touchstone Energy Cooperative members save more on electricity, and members save more on insurance, groceries, healthcare, restaurants, travel, concerts, and sporting events through Co-op Connections. Touchstone Energy is an alliance of the member-owned electric cooperatives, and as a member, the power is yours. Experience the power of co-op membership with Touchstone Energy and find out how much you can save on electricity and a whole lot more at touchstoneenergy.com.
Hi, I'm Jim Corbett. I've been an attorney for more than 30 years. There's one thing I've learned about injury cases. It's you need the personal touch. You need the lawyer to get to know you and describe your damages. You don't want a case manager talking to an insurance company, then talking to you, and then talking to maybe to a lawyer with limited experience at the last minute to try to settle a case. I talk to you, I find out what your case is about. Jim at JimCorbettAttorney.com. Jim at JimCorbettAttorney.com for your injury cases.
After a day like today, I could use a vacation. How about you? When I think about vacation, I think of the beach, Pawleys Island, Litchfield. And when I think of Pawleys Island, Litchfield, I think of one man only. He stands alone. He stands tall, even though he's only about 5'6". He stands tall over every other realtor at the beach. That's Jimmy Smith at James Smith Realty, PawleysVacationRentals.com. One call, and he'll do it all. He'll find you your spot for this summer for a week or longer, or maybe you want to buy something at the beach and make it a permanent move. Not a bad idea. Just give Jimmy a call. I guarantee you he'll take your phone call and he'll talk with you and find out exactly what you're looking for and get it done. Plus, he has a great staff that he works with there as well. 843-237-4246. 843-237-4246. That's for your perfect beach getaway at PawleysVacationRentals.com. Wide open, wide slab, stinking open for your phone calls tonight here on Sports Talk, except for recruiting. We always make room for recruiting. The Gamecocks offered an in-state receiver in the 23 class today. We'll talk about him. I think they've got a good chance to get him. course, they have the transfer offensive lineman in for an official visit this weekend. I think they've got a good chance to get him. And so we'll fill you in on all that coming up as we go to Andy in Columbia for the first call tonight here on this Friday edition of Sports Talk. And welcome in, sir. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well there, Mr. Corn. How about yourself?
Couldn't be finer.
Couple of questions for you, sir. With Teasley going to O-line coach, does that mean that Coach Atkins is now going to be an analyst, or is he no longer with the program?
Can't answer, don't know. They haven't said.
I was trying to read that somewhere, and I didn't see anything mentioned about Coach Atkins.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure that's still to be determined. I'm sure it's like what's going to be best for him. Don't know what his health situation is. Does he want to stay on as an analyst? Does he want to move somewhere else? Is he in a retirement sort of mind? Don't really know. They'll let us know at some point in time, I would imagine.
Well, I would think if he was still wanting to coach, wouldn't he still be here at South Carolina? Or was there an issue that we don't know about other than his health?
Not aware of any issue. The only thing I know about is that he had some kind of undisclosed health issue that sidelined him for most of the season. He got better towards the end and was back doing some things, but I think Coach Teasley continued to be the main guy with the offensive lineman and has also stepped up there in the recruiting aspect too.
Right, but that's what I'm just saying, though. If Coach Atkins wanted to coach, wouldn't he still stay here as a full-time coach? But who knows?
Yeah.
A couple other things to touch base with you on. Did you read about Justin Mackey, his new venture?
Yeah, I saw that. That was my man Chris Deering writing that story. And he is going to be a referee along with, his other job, his daytime job. But, yeah, he's officiating now. I think that's great.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. I always like to see players actually get out there and being the ones calling the games, because I think it's a little bit better. Some of these old guys like us who probably never been in that type of
well, don't throw me in the same boat with you when you're talking about old.
Well, yeah, that's right. You're older than me. Excuse me, Mr. Corn.
Well, that's just a number. I mean, we're
younger.
We're talking about I'm younger looking, I'm younger thinking, I'm younger acting. That's kind of what I go by.
Okay. Regarding the NIL thing that you said about the gas in cars out in California.
Yeah.
You got to be an idiot of a kid if you're going to take the portal out to California and in your NIL you don't get a gas card that's unlimited for you to be able to go to any gas station you wanted to and pump gas. I'm sure.
I mean, the cost of living out there, but I'm sure they'll compensate him well and he'll be happy. He'll probably spend a year out there and then he'll think he can go to the NFL and that'll be the last we'll hear of him.
Well, now let me ask you a question, Corn. I know that the kids get a certain amount of money anyway through the university, and I thought I heard someone say it was like close to $12,000 or $13,000 a year here at South Carolina. If you go out to the West Coast, or you go out to places that have a bigger, cost of living, is that money more, or is it just that money's across the board straight for every university?
Well, I know before NIL that South Carolina was offering money to their athletes, all of them, not just football players, but all of them. They had a program where they were giving money to the athletes. And, of course, you had the stipends that were coming in from the NCAA. I would imagine that's across the board. I don't know that anything fluctuates based on the inflationary standard where you live or the cost of living where you live. I don't know that they increase it by a certain percentage or anything like that. So
I don't getting a stipend here in Columbia and you go get the same stipend out in LA. That's like getting pennies out in LA.
That's right. So, but they just give you more. I mean,
that's why I was asking you about the stipend. If those things.
No, I think the NCAA's stipend were universal across the entire country, not based on what the cost of living was in a certain area.
Okay, that's what I was curious about.
Yeah.
I know that NILs can take care of whatever differences that they want to. I was talking more about the NCAA and how they supposedly monitor things.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And did y'all talk last night about Harbaugh and his? Yeah, y'all did.
Yeah, we touched on it. Yeah, we touched on it. It didn't sound like it was going to be much of anything. I mean, the stories were like it was going to be basically minor violations.
I mean, to me, the NCAA is a joke. And what are they trying to do and what are they trying to prove?
That's a good question. It's like everything else they do. They're so reactive instead of, being out in front of things, like what happened during the COVID era and what happened during the NIL, the development there. And to come back in now and hit these guys with these minor violations does seem like a joke. Got to hit the break. Be right back.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's your weekend forecast. Clear and cool tonight, a low dipping down to 36. Tomorrow, another glorious day, mostly sunny, just a few clouds, the high reaching 62. Now on Sunday, we stay mild with a high of 61, but we get more clouds and a 30% chance of some afternoon showers. Cooler temps ahead for next week. I'm Kevin Cohen with your On Point local weather.
Hey, it's the Cigar Militia. We want to thank the Midlands for a wonderful first year. Thank you for helping us grow. We had no idea we had so many good friends out there. One thing I love about the cigar culture is we all have our favorite brands, but we're also willing to try new ones too. Come in and get your old standby or have one of our knowledgeable staff members walk you through the humidor to your new favorite. We're at 1410 Colonial Life Boulevard in the same plaza as the Melting Pot Restaurant.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters reporting U.S. health officials have approved a new Alzheimer's drug that modestly slows the brain-robbing disease. The Food and Drug Administration granted the approval Friday for patients in the early stages of Alzheimer's, but didn't rule out broader use. It's the first drug that's been convincingly shown to slow the decline in memory and thinking that define the disease, but the $26,000 a year medication comes with downsides, including potentially serious side effects and frequent drug infusions. Alzheimer's patients will have to decide whether those issues are worth the drug's benefit, which likely amounts to slowing the disease by several months. Insurers are expected to only cover the drug for people with early-stage Alzheimer's. On Wall Street, the Dow by 700 points, the Nasdaq rose 264. This is SRN News.
Dave Ramsey here. Do you want your money to work for you rather than you working for your money? Go see my friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. They're not a mega bank and have been serving the Midlands since 1936, offering good old-fashioned customer service and free services. They'll look out for your financial well-being. With 14 locations, check them out today at palmettocitizens.org. Federally insured by the NCUA.
It's January, it's 2023, a brand new year, time for a brand new pet in your home. Columbia Animal Services invites you to bring home a brand new best friend for the new year. Time to visit petfinder.com to find that new puppy or kitty cat for your home. There's no better way to get 2023 started than to do so with an adoption special of just $23. Visit petfinder.com and get your new family member to start the new year. Happy New Year from Columbia Animal Services.
Everyone seems to be hiring these days, but are they good jobs where there's potential for growth? What about on-the-job training and competitive wages, including health insurance and a 401k plan? Professional Printers is looking for their next star. They're a local printer with 2 locations, 130 employees, and a national clientele. If you've got a good attitude, want to learn some great skills, and work in a positive environment, reach out on proprinters.com or apply in person at 301B Greystone Boulevard.
Gas prices, grocery prices, inflation has hit us all, and it's caused the Fed to raise interest rates. As a result, after historically low mortgage rates for what seemed like forever, interest rates for a mortgage have jumped in recent months. Fran Halloran here. Let me make something clear to you. Mortgage rates are rising. They may continue to rise as the Fed tries to get a grip on inflation. What hasn't changed is the incredible customer service you'll get from Greg McCoy and Simplified Mortgage Solutions. Greg can't control interest rates. He can, however, control fees. With rates on the rise, now more than ever, you need to know you're getting the very best deal. Greg will make sure of that. He's more than just a mortgage guy. Greg McCoy is your trusted advisor. You might be surprised to learn how much Simplified Mortgage and Greg McCoy can do to help you with your biggest financial investment. Not sure? Have questions? Give Greg a call at Simplified Mortgage, 803-722-6044, or find him online at simplifiedmortgagesc.com. Greg McCoy, NMLS 119871.
Hey, it's Jay with the Melting Pot. So this is the time of year when we try to be responsible and plan out the next 12 months.
I'm not good at it either, so let's work on this together. Go and grab your calendar, whether it's on your phone or on your refrigerator.
Find your anniversary, your best friend's birthday, your kid's birthday, your spouse's birthday, graduation day, and write in Melting Pot.
We're the premier special occasion restaurant in the Midlands, the Melting Pot.
All right, let's give you some of the nitty-gritty details on what the USC Board of Trustees did today for the football coaching staff. And first of all, begin with a kind of an overview of what they did today as they took care of Shane Beamer and took care of his assistant coaches. And first of all, Shane Beamer contract begins January 1 and ends December 31, 2027. Be paid $6.125 for this year, and then increasing to $6.375, $6.625, $6.875, and topping off at $7.125 in year 5 of the contract. And there will be, of course, some performance incentive compensation, $100,000 for a non-CFP bowl appearance, except for the Citrus Bowl. Or you make the Citrus Bowl, it's $150,000. Or if you make, bless you, if you make the semifinals of the CFP or a first-round game, I guess with the expansion, CFP first-round game, you get $300,000, quarterfinal, $500,000, semifinal, $750,000. If you make the national championship, it's $1 million bonus. If you win it all, $1.25 million bonus. Coach may terminate the employment agreement upon 3 days written notice. If he does so in the first year, he'll pay $5 million, and it decreases by $1,432,100 in the final year of the contract. All right. And let's see. I think that's all that there is in that particular document. Okay. To the assistant coaches, we go now to look at some of the details. First of all, Teasley's contract, it's for 2 years ending December 31, 2024, salary of $410,000, $25,000 bonus for an SEC championship appearance. A victory is worth $50,000, and then he's got performance bonuses reaching $65,000 for a national championship win. His buyout $200,000 in year 1 and $100,000 in year 2. For the assistant coaches, Torian Gray, 2-year extension through the end of 2025, $650,000 this year, then $675,000, then $700,000. In year 3, Montario Hardesty gets a 1-year extension through 24 at a salary of $400,000. Jimmy Lindsay, 1-year extension through 24, $300,000 in year 1. Back that up. His salary is $475,000. I was reading something else. His salary is $475,000. Sterling Lucas, 1-year extension through 24, salary of $475,000. Clayton White, a 1-year extension through 2025. His salary, $1.2. And that is it for what they've done for the assistant coaches, the hiring of Teasley, and what they did for Shane Beamer as well. So, hey, you got to spend to keep up. There's no question about it. And I think South Carolina is spending wisely here. To me, it looks like a good deal, a reasonable deal. They're not blowing up the bank, and they're not tying their hands like they were under the Muschamp deal. It looks like a win-win, and obviously Beamer believes in himself, believes that he can continue to grow this program and win more football games. Well, it really would have been something. Imagine if he had just beaten Notre Dame and they had won 9 games instead of 8. I wonder if that another win, a win over Notre Dame and 9 wins, and you're looking at, do they bump it even into the $7 million range versus the $6 million range that they settled in? They take him over $7 million, or were they already set on what they were going to do regardless of the bowl game? I don't know. Just thinking out loud. Okay, a couple of other things. 888-898-2525 is our phone number. South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number here on Sports Talk. The staff is set at Coastal Carolina. So here it is. Travis Trickett will be the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach. He joined the staff after working with such folks as Bobby Bowden, Jimbo Fisher, Nick Saban, Rich Rodriguez. And he served 8 seasons as an offensive coordinator with stints at South Florida this past season, and Georgia State and Florida Atlantic and Samford. All right. Then Derek Wareheim is the offensive line coach, and he joins the staff as they worked together previously at Texas 2017 through 2019, and he's coming from New Mexico where he spent seasons there in 2020 and 2022. Well, you know what Joe Morrison said when he came to South Carolina after coaching at New Mexico and at UT Chattanooga. I wonder if Derek Wareheim feels the same way going to Conway after living in Albuquerque. He's living somewhere now he can spell the name of the town. I mean, Joe Morrison had to spell Chattanooga and Albuquerque. He was very happy just to only have to spell Columbia. Anyway, the tight ends coach is Chris Proctor, and he comes from NC State where he was the offensive quality control assistant. And Beck was there at NC State. Perry Parks, former coach at Ridgeview who left to go to Charlotte, a Coastal alum, is going to be the receivers coach. He'll do an excellent job. Xavier Dye, former Clemson wide receiver, is going to be the running backs coach. He'd been at South Florida from 2020 through 2022. On the defensive staff, Craig Navar is your defensive coordinator and safeties coach. 30 years of experience in the Pac-12, the Big 12, and he was on the same coaching staff as Beck at Texas. Comes to Coastal after 1 year at SMU, where he coached special teams and safeties. He's your coordinator. Dan Carroll is your co-defensive coordinator and linebackers coach. And he returns to college after being the defensive coordinator for the Michigan Panthers under Jeff Fisher in the USFL. How about that? And he's coached, as I mentioned, in college previously. He was at UMass for a while and some other spots, of course, as well. University of Houston. Also was at Ohio State and Kentucky. Jimmy Brumbaugh, recognize that name. Defensive line, defensive run game coordinator, former All-SEC defensive lineman. And Brumbaugh comes to Coastal after a year at Auburn, which is his alma mater. So great player back in the day at Auburn. Curtis Fuller will coach the cornerbacks. Recognize that name. Former NFL player and coach. Over his time in the NFL, he coached such players as James Bradbury, Shaq Thompson, Mike Adams, Charles Woodson, Patrick Peterson, Captain Munnerlyn. He comes to Coastal after 1 year at Texas A&M Commerce, where he coached safeties. And he also has coached for the Cowboys, the Raiders, the Packers, the Titans, the Panthers, and the Cardinals. Josh Miller will be special teams and outside linebackers coach. He spent 3 seasons as a defensive line coach at Furman from 2017 to 2019. This year he worked at let's see here. He was at Coastal. He was at Coastal this year, where he worked with two All Sun Belt honorees in Josiah Stewart and Adrian Hope. So he is staying over and being retained there at Coastal. Speed, strength, and conditioning is Quinn Barham, and he came to Coastal after working on the Ohio State staff from 2016 to 2022. So that is what the Coastal staff looks like. A lot of staffing news today here in South Carolina. Okay, before we get back to phone calls, speaking of staff, let's welcome in our Chief of Staff, Chris Bergen.
I love it.
Hey, Chief of Staff.
I got a raise and a contract extension today and also a new promotion, evidently. So
Yes,
I'm thrilled to be a part of the Sports Talk family.
Great day to be in the Bergen household. Yes, sir. You got a $25 an hour raise, and we got Finn some brand new wet food to eat.
He'll love it.
Yeah.
He'll love it. Throw
Yeah.
some sweet potato chips in there. He'll be set.
Man, y'all lost a tough one last night. A tough one last night.
It's funny, Phil, the last 5 meetings between Coastal and Appalachian State, the script is almost played out just like last night. I told Coach in the postgame, I'm getting tired of watching the same movie over and over again. The last 5 games have been decided by either in overtime or 1 point. And last night was no exception, 63-62. Appalachian with the win. You thought Coastal had won it at the foul line. They moved in front 62-61. App heaved up a long-range 3 with about 4 seconds left to go in the game. It bounced off the rim, and Coastal just forgot to box out. And C.J. Huntley for Appalachian State, real athletic 4 or 5 man. He was able to slide inside, tap it back in with less than a second to go. And Coastal had no timeouts at that point, so they had to heave one up the floor, and it was intercepted to end the ball game. But, yeah, just a tough way to lose to Appalachian State, but Coastal's getting used to that because that's how this script seems to always play out.
Yeah, that's a tough loss. That's a couple of games there, really, that you had in your grasp coming off that win over Louisiana. You really could be sitting there in a great spot early in league play.
Oh, yeah, there's a fairly easy 3-0 record, or you could look at it the other side of the coin. Coastal could be 0-3
Sure.
in Sun Belt play, so because they had that narrow win over Louisiana. So things worked out well for them for the opener. Didn't work out so well the past 2 ball games, and now they face the highest scoring offense in the Sun Belt here tomorrow afternoon in Huntington, West Virginia. I'm actually broadcasting from Marshall's basketball arena upstairs on the concourse, so I'm hoping not to interrupt the practice, which is presently going on. But that game set for 3:30 against Dan D'Antoni's club. I think a lot of folks back in South Carolina will recognize that name as the head coach at Marshall. And boy, does he have a team that likes to get it up and down the floor, and they are very good in the backcourt. So it should be an interesting matchup for sure.
All right, before we get back to phone calls, your quick thoughts on what South Carolina gave Shane Beamer and the staff today.
Well, understandable. You wanted to reward him for the first 2 seasons, Phil, but I'm just curious, do you worry that you're going down the same pathway, and I'm sure you've probably brought this up already on the program, that you did with Will Muschamp? There was such a rush after Will Muschamp's second year when they won 9 ball games to give him a contract extension, huge raise, and obviously we know how that played out. And if you're a Gamecock fan, you certainly don't want to see that pathway play again with Shane Beamer. You hope he's going to be in there for the long haul and be successful and be able to turn the program into a consistent winner. But why today? What's over the past 2 years? Obviously, he has improved the program from where it was when he took over. But was there a rush to make a major emphasis and put this much more muscle in terms of money behind the football program? You could have probably raised his salary a little bit, maybe added an extra year on the contract, just so you don't put yourself in that same scenario that you were in with Will Muschamp, where you ultimately had to pay off a big contract before you could even hire Shane Beamer.
Well, they've protected themselves from that with this. They do not have that kind of buyout involved here with Beamer. So that's the number one thing. The number 2 thing, they had to do something because they had to keep his years at 4 and 5. You want to keep that in place. So they had to get that back in place. And I don't think they really busted their bank here. I mean, I think they got him on the cheap the first couple of years. And I think that now they've put him in the middle of the SEC for the most part, which I think is a good place to be with South Carolina until you become the king, until you get up to where you're winning championships and playing in the championships, the national championships. I think you're right where you are. I mean, look at the highest paid guys The only one right now you'd say is absolutely totally overpaid is Jimbo Fisher, because Nick Saban is still producing at a high level, and Dabo Swinney, even though he's missed the playoffs the last 2 years, he did win an ACC championship, and he was probably a game out of making the playoffs. The loss to South Carolina knocked them out. So, he's earning his money for what they think it's worth to have a championship-level program. South Carolina's not at championship level. They're at mid-level program right now, and he's going to be paid at mid-level. And then why today? You got recruiting going on.
Right.
You're about to make the surge here for the last part of January. You got some guys out there that you really want. This never hurts to be able to say, okay, look, I'm locked in for 5 years. Here's my coaching staff. Nobody's leaving. I mean, they are interchanging Coach Adkins for Coach Teasley, but as far as we know, that's a health thing. There was no firings. There were no coaches besides Satterfield, of course. Satterfield left. Let me rephrase that. Satterfield's gone, but I'm talking about right now at the end of the season. Since the bowl game, there's nobody up and leaving. When you typically have coaches leave for other jobs after the bowl game and after the initial signing period, so all that looks good for South Carolina. So
I would agree with.
I would think they should
sit.
I think they should feel pretty good about the deal that they've given him. All right, let's jump to the phones.
I do have one quick thing I
Yeah.
wanted to point out, and it's something we can explore. But you talked about making sure you have a coach locked in for 4 to 5 years now, because the theory was you want to make sure when you're recruiting at the high school level that coach is going to be there the entire time your son is there, if you're talking to the parents. Is that as necessary anymore in college athletics, Phil, to be able to say I'm going to be here 4 or 5 years when 90%, maybe that's a high mark, maybe 60% of the players you recruit are not going to finish their career at your school?
Yeah, really. I mean, you should be saying to the player, I hope you're here while I'm here. It's not the other way around.
Yeah, I can guarantee is I will be here for your freshman season.
Right.
After that,
if you make it to your freshman year, All right, let's quickly jump to the phones before we have to hit a break, because folks have been waiting for a while. So we go to Gamecock Larry. Gamecock Larry, welcome in, sir. How are you? Hope you're doing well.
I am doing just fine, but I've been laying here listening to you talk, but you didn't say anything about Bobo. Oh, Bobo. And then I heard something about Steve Spurrier Jr. going somewhere as a play caller. But let me tell you about what happened to this Marshawn Lloyd deal. He came back to Coach Beamer wanting to play in the bowl game. Coach Beamer said no. Well, Maryland was supposed to have him a spot. Have him a spot on the Maryland team. They're supposed to be going to transfer portal. Well, he went in the transfer portal. Old Big Tree, whatever you call him, he decommitted from Carolina. Well, then Maryland tells Marshawn Lloyd, we don't have a spot for you. We can't place you. Well, they left old poor Marshawn out to dry. Well, then Big Tree, he wound up signing with Carolina. Now, I got this from the horse's mouth. I know what I'm talking about. I know you don't believe all that I tell you.
I believe everything that you say.
Yeah, okay. I tell you what happened. Beamer told Marshawn, said, you can come back next year if you want to. We will take you back, but you cannot play in the bowl game. And so I don't guess that suited too well with Marshawn. And him and Beamer talked, and Beamer told him, said, I will try to help you find a place you can go. So him and Beamer and his old buddy, whatever that guy is out that Southern California, Lincoln Riley, they got to talking. And old Lincoln told Shane, said, yeah, I'll take him. And that's how he got out there to Southern California. But he is not going to be a first string back. So what's he going to do? I don't know, but I don't blame the young man. I don't blame him. I don't blame any of the young men for doing what to do. because I made mistakes in my young life also. But I want to say one thing. It is a privilege for me to follow Andy on the show. Really, it is a privilege for me to be able to follow Andy on the show.
Well, listen, I hate to jump in. I hate to jump. We got to go to a break. We're up against the time, but we appreciate it. Your deep throat sources are impeccable. And I believe everything you say. And, Southern Cal, I don't know looking what they have on the depth chart, but they got running backs in their program. So I guess Marshawn Lloyd thinks that he can go out there and compete. Instead of being the dog, he would be the dog in Columbia. Is he going to be the dog at Southern Cal? We'll see in time.
Major Billy Downer here from the Department of Natural Resources, and DNR is excited to announce the implementation of Go Outdoors SC, a new online licensing and boat titling system that you can access right from your phone. Through this new system, customers can purchase their hunting and fishing licenses, renew their boats, apply for lottery hunt opportunities, and complete electronic harvest reporting requirements. For more information, visit Go Outdoors SC at your local app store.
Score a touchdown with Founders Federal Credit Union. With services like Founders Online and the Founders app, you'll enjoy all the perks of a big bank with local personalized service. Not a member? Joining Founders Federal Credit Union is easy. Visit relaxjoinfounders.com or one of our 37 convenient locations to see if you qualify for membership. Relax with Founders. Terms and conditions apply. Founders Federal Credit Union is federally insured by NCUA.
When your day calls for some winning, why not watch your favorite football team at Dave & Buster's? We've got massive HD TVs and hundreds of the hottest new games. Sip from our chef-crafted cocktail menu with exclusive drinks such as the Strawberry Watermelon Margarita or Dangerous Waters. Cheer on the team with Cantina Nachos or wings featuring one of our 12 wing flavors. When your day calls for some winning, it's time for Dave & Buster's, where you can watch the games and play the games. Locations in Greenville, Columbia, and Myrtle Beach.
Now, looking at the depth chart at Southern Cal, I see two running backs. I'm looking at the depth chart used by Our Lads, which is a draft website, but they're usually really good at keeping up with things. So this Austin Jones listed as a senior transfer and Raleek Brown listed as a freshman. Otherwise, I don't see any other running backs listed on their roster. So maybe it's an opportunity out there for him. But again, he would have been the dog at South Carolina, no question. Speaking of the dogs, let's go to our callers once again. Hank, the dog of all callers on Sports Talk. Welcome in, sir.
Hey, Corn. On that Southern Cal website, you must be missing because there's a guy that they had two good running backs. One named Dye, who I think has like a COVID senior year. He could come back. I think he got hurt earlier in the season. And another guy that Rowley brought in from Oklahoma also. So I think there's one or two really good backs.
Could that be Austin Jones? Is he the transfer from Oklahoma?
It might be, but there's a guy that was already out there. It was like a big-time running back and he got hurt earlier in the year.
Yeah.
Who would be the lead back.
No, I take it back. It says here Jones transferred from Stanford.
Yeah.
So
and then when you were talking about the cost of living, you remember they do allow adjustments for cost of living. They when that thing came out, they talked about whether kids would start going to Texas or Ohio State versus other schools because of cost of living. So that is
you mean you're talking about the things the NCAA was giving in their stipends? Allowed. So if you lived in Los Angeles, you got more than if you lived in Rhode Island?
Yeah, you had to turn it. Yeah, each school has a different cost of living, and it's put out for all of the students. And your cost of living stipend is based off of what your school puts out for your entire school. So there are different cost of livings across the country. in terms of that stipend that goes to athletes and players who get that. And then last thing, Corn, the thing about the contract, and I'm not sure what Chris was thinking, but you can't finish third in the East and then go into next year having your coach be the lowest paid coach in the league and have any recruit look at you seriously. You're going to have that's the easiest way for coaches to negatively recruit against you, if anything, as for a school.
Yeah, and thank you very much for the call. Yeah, I think they had to do something here 2 years in and coming off this season, and I think everything smells exactly right with what they did. Top of the hour break. We'll be back.
Someone will be right with you.
The Point.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
From the Bart Fireside Studio, the solution for keeping you warm this winter.
This is 107 The Point.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting. The House adjourns until 10 p.m. tonight as Kevin McCarthy gains votes in his bid to be House Speaker. Capitol Hill correspondent Bernie Bennett has more.
Kevin McCarthy tells reporters he is confident that he will be elected Speaker of the House tonight, following a gain of votes in the 13th round. McCarthy finally gained more votes than Democrat Hakeem Jeffries, including Republican holdouts Andy Biggs of Arizona, Andy Harris of Maryland, and most notably Byron Donalds, who would run against him. Donalds said in a tweet that he was satisfied with concessions McCarthy had agreed to in order to move forward. Republicans are asking two absent members to return to Washington, Ken Buck and Wesley Hunt, in order to have 434 members on the floor and give McCarthy the 218 votes he needs. Bernie Bennett at the Capitol.
A roller coaster week of emotions reached a new high Friday when Buffalo Bills football player Damar Hamlin spoke to his teammates via video Friday as he continues to recover from cardiac arrest suffered during Monday night's game. Bills coach Sean McDermott says the players were very excited to see Hamlin on the video screen.
They stood up right away and clapped for him and, yelled some things to him, and it was a pretty cool exchange.
What sent the Bills' emotions over the top was hearing Hamlin speak. Damar told his team that he loved them, and they in turn told him they loved him as well. The U.S. and Germany are sending Ukraine an array of armored vehicles, including 50 tank-killing Bradleys. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre says this is the biggest U.S. aid package yet to Ukraine.
The war is at a critical point, and we must do everything that we can to help the Ukrainians resist Russian aggression.
The vehicles provide a strategic war fighting capability as the season change brings muddy terrain. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 700 points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Relief Factor, pain relief that's natural, pain relief that works, and pain relief that attacks the source of the pain. That's the experience of tens of thousands of Americans who are taking Relief Factor right now. See their incredible video endorsements at relieffactor.com and then order your 3-week quick starter pack for just $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Find out if it can work for you like it works for me by ordering your 3-week quick starter pack today. Relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. Be the next success story.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month.
SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance. For your free quote, go to SelectQuote.com. That's SelectQuote.com. Full details on example policies at SelectQuote.com/commercials.
Half off.
With its flights running on a roughly normal schedule, Southwest Airlines is now turning its attention to repairing its damaged reputation after it canceled 15,000 flights around Christmas and left holiday travelers stranded.
The disruption started with a winter storm and snowballed when Southwest's outdated crew scheduling technology failed. Southwest told customers whose flights were canceled or significantly delayed over the holidays that they would get 25,000 frequent flyer points on top of refunds and reimbursement for unexpected costs like hotels and meals. But that may not be enough to lure back embittered customers.
That's correspondent Jeremy House reporting. New York City school officials are blocking a new artificial intelligence tool that can turn out a college term paper in a matter of seconds. News and analysis at townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's your weekend forecast. Clear and cool tonight, a low dipping down to 36. Tomorrow, another glorious day, mostly sunny. Just a few clouds, the high reaching 62. Now on Sunday, we stay mild with a high of 61, but we get more clouds and a 30% chance of some afternoon showers. Cooler temps ahead for next week. I'm Kevin Corn with your On Point local weather.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
From the Bart Fireside Studio, the solution for keeping you warm this winter.
This is 107 The Point.
Ooh, you shouldn't have pressed that button. Oh. Now you get this.
Welcome back to Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network. You can reach the guys with the South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number, 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now back to Phil, Chris, and Pat with the second hour of Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network.
Okay, we're back with you here on a Friday night. It's a good Friday night. It's a fun Friday night. A fun Friday free-for-all here on Sports Talk. 888-898. I'll slow it down. Maybe I say it too fast sometimes. 888-898-2525. South Carolina Education Lottery. Lucky number for you to reach us here on Sports Talk. Open for your phone calls for the next little while. We'll do recruiting in a few minutes. Then the bottom of the hour, George Bryan and Rob Thames will join us. Rob, of course, coming to us from over at one of our favorite locations in the entire world, Tsunami Bar Sports, here in Columbia. We'll be talking birdies and bogeys and biceps around South Carolina because they all go together. Having nice biceps and a good golf swing, I think, makes for the perfect human being. If I could have a beautiful bicep and a beautiful golf swing, I'd be a happy guy. So we'll be talking about that, what's going on in the golf world, coming up here at the bottom of the hour. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, our phone lines are now open for you, 888-898-2525. Let me pass along a few other things. Well, first of all, Chris, your thoughts on the announcement from Coastal Carolina today of the full staff now for Tim Beck. Looks like a good staff. He's got some older guys with a lot of experience. He's got some younger guys up and coming in the coaching world. Looks like he's put together a good group.
Frankly, Phil, and you talked about several of the guys you recognized. Most of those names I did not. So, frankly, I don't know much about the staff. They obviously have tremendous experience, especially at the Power 5 level, which I think Tim Beck was hoping to bring in and bring some experience in there. I think the most interesting parts, Joshua Miller, you talked about him being retained, but Chad Staggs not being retained as the interim head coach going into the bowl game. Former DC, he was that to me was the most notable absence because I think they did offer him a position on the staff to stay around. He did not want evidently take that, but otherwise it looks like a really good staff. It really does. And fortunately for them, they've got their quarterback back and their best receiver back for next season, so they'll be able to build. You knew the entire offensive staff was going to get an overhaul because all of those guys, for the most part, went with Jamie Chadwell up to Liberty. The defensive staff, I was curious to see how that was going to play out and if Chad Staggs actually did stay around, but obviously he did not when the release came out with the new staff. But I guess time will tell on that for sure.
Now, is he not going to Liberty, Chad Staggs?
Don't think so. I haven't seen anything about that. Now, maybe he is, but I have not seen anything about him going up to Liberty.
Okay. I find that interesting since they had been together for so long. And
right.
I mean, Chad did a great job. I know the defense wasn't up to standards this past season, but for the most part, he had done a great job. And he had produced players. He had developed players who moved on to the NFL or who have gotten a chance to be in the NFL.
Oh, absolutely. He's done a tremendous job. This year was sort of the outlier. And unfortunately, it came on a season where the head coach leaves and moves on. But I'm looking at Liberty's staff right now, and they've already got their two DCs. Jack Curtis and also Skylar McGee are the two co-defensive coordinators. So Staggs did not go with Jamie up to Liberty. So, yeah, I agree with you. I thought Staggs had done a nice job, but the past couple of seasons, certainly this season in particular, sort of sticks out like a sore thumb with the amount of points they gave up down the stretch. And some of that can be attributed to injuries and maybe just not developing the back end of that defense. I think a lot of it, though, has to be attributed to the rumors and everything starting to swirl around late in the season about Jamie Chadwell possibly going elsewhere. Was the Liberty story actually true? And it turned out to be so. I think that probably bothered the team as well.
Yeah. Okay.
And if I may, I wanted to respond, since I didn't get a chance top of the hour, I wanted to respond to Hank's comments. And I agree with him on the surface, but what I'm sort of the guy who looks at things and remembers that old saying about those who fail to remember their past are condemned to repeat it.
Mm-hmm.
He talked about you couldn't extend Shane Beamer's contract after finishing third in the SEC. Keep in mind when Will Muschamp, after 2 years, he finished second in the SEC East. And look what happened 3 years later. You had to get rid of him midseason. I don't anticipate that happening to Shane Beamer. I was just cautioning that this, at least on the surface, is a similar circumstance that USC has gone down before. Hopefully for them, it pays off and pays off in a big, big way. But again, it's a similar scenario. And you touched on maybe the biggest difference is the buyout. But it works on a fairly similar scenario that Muschamp did after his second year.
The path has been very similar between the two thus far.
Yep.
I mean, there's
No
really
doubt.
one game difference, and that was the fact that Muschamp won his bowl game in year 2, and Beamer did not. And also, let's see, Muschamp, he won 5 SEC games in his second year, and Beamer won 4. Now, Beamer won his bowl game his first year, and Muschamp did not. So, lost in overtime, as I recall.
That was just what I was pointing out.
Yeah, I get it. I get what you listen. I mean, I think there are a lot of, and I think there's probably a lot of Gamecock fans who were going into this when the talk of and knowing you're going to redo the contract were a little bit hesitant over what had happened before. And that Ray Tanner was as well. I mean, look, nobody put a gun to Ray Tanner's head and forced him to give Will Muschamp that huge buyout. For some reason, he believed he had to do that to protect his own interest, that Muschamp might up and walk and go somewhere else. And so, he was just trying to protect what he thought was his interest and tie him down for the long term, not expecting things to turn south so quickly in the program. Now, look, if South Carolina doesn't have Spencer Rattler next year and doesn't have Antoine Wells, yes, they'll have somebody playing quarterback, and yes, they'll have somebody playing receiver. But, I mean, now you're looking at an offense with a new coordinator, a brand new quarterback, a quarterback, whoever it is, if he's in the program now or he comes from the portal, John, somebody who's hardly played football at South Carolina, if not at all. You're looking at probably a brand new running back, unless Juju McDowell turns out to be the guy, which I don't think he will be the guy. You're going to have some development at wide receiver. I know Xavier Legette gives you a nice place to start there, but I mean, you're losing, if Wells goes, you're losing Wells, you're losing Van, you're losing Brooks, Marion Brown. I think he might be back, but then you're losing all those tight ends, but you're bringing in a bunch of tight ends, but you're losing the whole right side of your offensive line from center to the right. So who knows what this offense is going to look like in 2023. It might be a dud, or it might be dynamo. Going into his third year at South Carolina for Will Muschamp, and they were feeling pretty good about things coming off that win. Remember, all gas, no brakes. That was the slogan. He uttered that in the locker room after they beat Michigan, and he said that to the media. He said, I told those guys in there, you're going to get a couple of days off. You're going to show up for winter drills. All gas, no brakes. All gas, no brakes. As only Muschamp could say it. All gas, no brakes. All gas, no brakes. The brakes hit, in year 3, and they had the injuries, and then they just never recovered from that point. I mean, they lost that game. Actually, year 3 had a chance, and then they lost that game at Florida. I've mentioned this many times. They had a chance, and then they lost that game at Florida, and then it was pretty much all downhill. They got shut out in the bowl game. No Deebo Samuel. They got shut out in the bowl game. And then Bentley gets hurt to start the next year. And then that was really, The handwriting was on the wall at that point. It was 3 successive down seasons. And all of a sudden, you're firing your coach in the middle of the next year. In the COVID year, you're firing your coach, and you got this huge buyout you got to pay him. Yeah. Nothing is guaranteed, Nothing is guaranteed right now. I would say, there's few guarantees in college football today. Obviously, Alabama's pretty much a guarantee. Who else is a guarantee? Looks like Ohio State's pretty much a guarantee. Clemson has been a guarantee here over the last several years, over the last decade, really. But are they starting to slip a little bit? As our poll question of the week asks, are they starting to slip a little bit? Time will tell. Is Lincoln Riley a guarantee out at Southern Cal? Well, he didn't make the playoffs this year. It's just his first year. I get that. But he didn't make the playoffs, and that's what he was hired to do. Look at Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M. What's he done? Sarkisian didn't make the playoffs at Texas. First year, but didn't make the playoffs. Let's see what happens when he's got now what's going to happen out there with that quarterback situation, because he's got a stud puppy who transferred already once, and now you got Manning coming in. That's going to be interesting to watch. The two of them are not going to coexist out of Texas. Somebody's hitting the portal, John, probably before they play the first league game, I would imagine. Yeah, what are they going to do? They're going to run a 2-quarterback system, which makes me wonder about Clemson. What's going to happen at Clemson when Vizina arrives and everybody's raving about Vizina, and you got Klubnik, who's really going to be a brand new starter, even though he started the bowl game. He's going to be a brand new starter in 23. They might coexist for a year. I can't see that lasting the long term. If Vizina's not getting any play, he's not going to stay. And if Klubnik gets passed by him, he's not going to stay. That's just the way it is with quarterbacks. If I ain't playing, I ain't staying.
So, Phil, how do you handle that as a recruiter? You're Dabo Swinney, you're Shane Beamer, you're Jimbo Fisher, whomever.
Best man plays?
Yeah, well, my point is, though, do you continue to try and recruit the best quarterback every cycle, knowing that you're probably going to lose 2 or 3 of them? Or do you maybe get a quarterback every other cycle and perhaps focus more on other offensive or defensive weapons where the need may be?
Well, you got to have quarterbacks.
Right.
Because so much is put on.
Have?
I don't know. So much is put on quarterbacks today. But you tell me how these highly rated quarterbacks who have been the man for 3 or 4 years at every level, junior high, high school, 7-on-7, they've been dined and wined and treated like kings everywhere they've been. And all of a sudden, they're not the man in college, and they're behind somebody else who has been in the same situation. They're not going to stick around.
Makes you, appreciate, I think, as a fan of college sports, whether you're a Gamecock fan or not, what Luke Doty and DeCarrion Joyner have done. Because both of those guys were highly rated talents coming out of high school, both Mr. Footballs in the States, and an opportunity they could have played and started anywhere else, or at least played considerably more than they have. But both of them have chosen to stick to what was their commitment when they came out of high school, stayed with their school. You're seeing less and less of that and more of, I'm not playing anymore, I'm out of here.
Yeah. Well, yeah, in Joyner's case, he's going to play it out and finish his career at South Carolina. Doty's still relatively young in terms of eligibility. And if he's not in the quarterback race this year, they got to find a place to play him. Maybe wide receiver. And if he's not getting any run there and somebody else is in at quarterback and he's not getting a look there, I couldn't see him staying as much as he might love the place. If he wants to go play football somewhere, I couldn't see him staying. But he's going to wait and see what happens here in the spring. Look who they bring in. If they have to bring in somebody, certainly he knows, they all know, if Rattler comes back, he's going to be the guy for another year. So if you're Braden Davis, if you're Doty, if you're Bailey, he was a highly touted recruit coming out of Alabama. If you're Gauthier, I think I've covered them all pretty much. Daniels, I think, left the program. So what are you going to do? You're going to have that other window. There's another transfer window opens up in May. So what are you going to do? By the way, I made a mistake. This was Sarkisian's second year. Is that right?
Yeah, it was his second year, and then, which while we're saying it too, remember Quinn Ewers spent his first year at Ohio State. So
right.
He's NFL draft eligible after one more year. So you got to think he and the young Manning guy will only have to be there for 1 year together.
Yeah. I wonder how that will work out this year, though. Ewers doesn't take me as a type who wants to sit behind anybody.
No.
I
I mean, this is the same kid that got out of high school in the state of Texas early enough so he could chase the NIL money. I'm not sure he's going to sit behind anybody on that Texas bench.
No, I agree.
Well, that's what I mean, though. I think he'll be the starter next year and declare for the NFL draft after the season, and Manning will be able to just sit back and learn for a year, not face the pressure, and then be able to start as a sophomore.
Do you think Manning's going to want to do that?
I mean, he had to have known the situation he was walking into. I would feel like certainly those conversations took place. I don't think he would have gone there, and we see Ewers not in the transfer portal. Like, there had to have been conversations for them both to be there.
All right, quickly, we go to no. Okay. We do not do that. So let me mention a couple of other things before we get to the recruiting report. Stop me if you've heard this before. Offensive line coach Will Friend, who had been at Auburn, was set to join the staff at Memphis as offensive line coach, and now he's flipped to Mississippi State in a role to be determined. Remember, he was going to stay at South Carolina, and then when Mike Bobo left to go to Auburn after Shane Beamer took over, he took off for Auburn with him, and now he's looking for a job and may end up at Mississippi State instead of going to Memphis. Former Gamecock safety R.J. Roderick taking a visit this weekend to Liberty so he can reacquaint himself there with Jamie Chadwell at Liberty. And let's see, what else? There's a couple of other things I wanted to mention. Told you about all the Clemson stuff, all about the South Carolina stuff. Oh, Benedict College offensive lineman Henry Mitchell selected to the 2023 HBCU Legacy Bowl, and Clemson receiver Joseph Ngata apparently has accepted an invite to the National Football League Players Association All-Star Game. At least they've announced that he's playing. And you don't play in that game unless you're going to the pros. Now, Ngata has not announced that he's going to the NFL draft, which makes that all the more intriguing. And story by Lou Bajak this afternoon in Columbia. Heathwood Hall coach Danny Lewis is going to the Citadel to be the assistant head coach and tight ends coach under Maurice Drayton. That's a tremendous hire. Danny Lewis, he'll recruit the heck out of the state of South Carolina, and he'll do well. He'll do well with them there. Todd Blackledge is leaving.
Yeah, this hurt.
ESPN to join NBC and team with Noah Eagle. Who is Noah Eagle? Is that Ian Eagle's son?
Yes, he is. And if you listen to them, Phil, you put them side by side, you didn't look at them, they sound exactly alike. They're identical voice matches.
Kind of like Woody and Wes Durham?
Yes, exactly. But and this is not going to be a popular opinion because I know how much people love Kirk Herbstreit and Chris Fowler, but ESPN's best broadcast crew was Sean McDonough and Todd Blackledge, and it's not even close. And unfortunately, that's going to be broken up because I loved listening to those guys do games.
Yeah, he's going to work Big Ten games. Former Clemson receiver E.J. Williams transferring to Indiana. Steve Spurrier Jr., son of Steve Spurrier, and a former Gamecock assistant, been at Mississippi State, going to Tulsa as offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach. Gamecock Larry mentioned that earlier on the show. Thank you, Gamecock Larry, for being on top of that. Former USC defensive back Joey Hunter is transferring to Akron. And with that, I think we have covered everything. So let's hit the break, and we'll come back with the recruiting report tonight here on Sports Talk. And then after that, birdies and bogeys and biceps around South Carolina. George Bryan III, Rob Thames joining us at the bottom of the hour for that. Look forward to having them with us as well. We'll be back, give you the recruiting report on this Friday night in just a moment. Don't go away.
When your day calls for some winning, why not watch your favorite football team at Dave & Buster's? We've got massive HD TVs and hundreds of the hottest new games. Sip from our chef-crafted cocktail menu with exclusive drinks such as the Strawberry Watermelon Margarita or Dangerous Waters. Cheer on the team with Cantina Nachos or wings featuring one of our 12 wing flavors. When your day calls for some winning, it's time for Dave & Buster's, where you can watch the games and play the games. Locations in Greenville, Columbia, and Myrtle Beach.
Join the Trailblaze Challenge, the endurance hike program where big hearts come together for big steps to create hope for local Wish families through Make-A-Wish, South Carolina. This spring, take part in a new journey on the Palmetto Trail. From sunrise on the highest peak in South Carolina to the coastal marshes of the Lowcountry, hikers of all levels can support critically ill children, enjoy and explore the outdoors, and build South Carolina pride and community through an all-inclusive hike experience. Visit sctrailblazechallenge.org to learn how to get started. That's sctrailblazechallenge.org.
Life, it has its ups and downs. Sometimes it's little things like hitting every red light or dropping your cell phone. Maybe it's the bills, rent, or pressure at work. But when it comes to the South Carolina Education Lottery, you should never feel like playing will solve everything. The lottery is a game. It's played for fun. So set a dollar amount. Expect not to win and make sure responsibilities, family, friends, and work come first. Visit playresponsiblysc.com.
Touchstone Energy Cooperative members save more on electricity, and members save more on insurance, groceries, healthcare, restaurants, travel, concerts, and sporting events through Co-op Connections. Touchstone Energy is an alliance of the member-owned electric cooperatives, and as a member, the power is yours. Experience the power of co-op membership with Touchstone Energy and find out how much you can save on electricity and a whole lot more at touchstoneenergy.com.
All right, recruiting time here on Sports Talk on this Friday night, brought to you by our great friends over at the Seawells. Get ready for another week next week of the daily luncheon buffet, 11 to 2. Uninterrupted next week, I think. Monday through Friday. We certainly hope it's uninterrupted. Was not available today because of a private party that we were not invited to. I wonder who the party was for. It's probably somebody important, way above our pay raise, our pay level. So we were not invited. But you're invited for the daily luncheon buffet every day next week, so get out and enjoy. And if you've got something coming up this year in 2023, requires the best in the catering business, just give Seawells a call at 803-771-7385, online at SeawellsCateringSC.com. Let them handle the entire deal for you. All right, so USC offered Shrine Bowl receiver Elijah Caldwell 6'1", 190. Receivers coach Justin Stepp looking to add to the 3 receivers signed in December. Caldwell was one of the state's top receivers this season, committed to West Virginia in July, decommitted December 19th. Stepped in with his involvement then after he decommitted. They made contact. They've been talking ever since. It really picked up after the Shrine Bowl. In the Shrine Bowl, Caldwell had 4 catches for 61 yards and a win. On the season, he had 77 catches, 1,365 yards, and 20 touchdowns. He's also talked to OC Dowell Loggins, so they're getting all in on him. He has not set a visit yet, but he will visit in January. Going to go to NC State official January 13th. Georgia Tech, Purdue, and Mississippi State are also getting heavily involved. Clemson, one of the 3 finalists for tight end Christian Bentancur, 6'5", 240, Woodstock, Illinois, along with Ohio State and Oregon. Next Friday, the 13th, he'll hold an announcement ceremony at his school. He said the decision's been made. He's notified the coaching staff. He took unofficial visits to all 3 finalists. Clemson, November 12th, the middle visit of the 3. He went to Ohio State in September and to Oregon the weekend after Clemson. Ohio State is closest to home, but he said distance will not be a factor at all. He camped at Clemson last summer, and that's when he was offered. And he really likes the Clemson scene, the culture, the fans, and the fact that they won another ACC championship. He racked up 54 catches, 1,058 yards, and 11 touchdowns this season. Woodland offensive tackle Cam Pringle down to a final 6. USC, Clemson, Florida, Tennessee, Georgia, and NC State. Western Illinois transfer offensive tackle Sidney Fugger on his official visit to USC this weekend, coming off a visit to Cincinnati. USC's offered Michigan transfer receiver Andrell Anthony Jr., 6'2", 190. Many schools have offered him. USC offered 2024 offensive tackle Caleb Brewer, while missing Pennsylvania. He's 6'6", 290. Running back Chris Davis of Picayune, Mississippi, and running back Gavin Griffin of Camden, Mississippi, plan to be at USC on the 21st. USC's in the top 10 with linebacker Daniel Hill of Meridian, Mississippi, Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, Mississippi State, Texas A&M, Auburn, LSU, Penn State, Arkansas, the others. USC offered offensive tackle Nair Daniels of Newark, New Jersey, and also planning to visit South Carolina on the 21st. Luca Puccinelli, a tight end out of Richmond, Virginia. He's got South Carolina down for that particular junior day. That'll do it. Chris, thank you, man. Have a great weekend.
We lost Chris. He's chasing the bus.
Chasing the bus. He's off to a good weekend. We've got birdies and bogeys and biceps coming up.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's your weekend forecast. Clear and cool tonight, a low dipping down to 36. Tomorrow, another glorious day, mostly sunny, just a few clouds, the high reaching 62. Now on Sunday, we stay mild with a high of 61, but we get more clouds and a 30% chance of some afternoon showers. Cooler temps ahead for next week. I'm Kevin Cohen with your On Point local weather.
Hi, honey. How was your first day back at work?
Well, that slip and fall sure did cause me some pain and discomfort. And this swollen ankle is no fun. Thanks to True Pharmacy, the day wasn't a complete waste.
I'm so glad they were able to get you all set up with your ACE bandage wrap and even a set of crutches.
Yes, who knew you could rent your crutches from True Pharmacy?
And they even have wheelchairs to rent and sell. That's good information to know in case we ever need it for our parents as they get older.
I'm so glad we found True Pharmacy. True Pharmacy, 2 locations in West Columbia and Divine Street.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters reporting a Trump administration ban on bump stocks, devices that enable a shooter to rapidly fire multiple rounds from semi-automatic weapons after an initial trigger pull, was struck down Friday by a federal appeals court in New Orleans. The ban was instituted after a sniper using bump stock-equipped weapons massacred dozens of people in Las Vegas in 2017. Gun rights advocates have challenged it in multiple courts. The ruling by the 16-member 5th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals is the latest on the issue, which is likely to be decided at the Supreme Court. Kevin McCarthy is hoping the 14th time is the charm. The House will reconvene for yet another roll call for who will be the next speaker. McCarthy gained the support of 15 of the 20 conservative Republicans who have voted against him today. On Wall Street, the Dow by 700 points. This is SRN News.
Loyalty is an important quality, but it's not a given. It's earned. Shooter's Choice has earned the loyalty of people around the Midlands because they have great customer service, tremendous selection, and they've been the local guys for more than 30 years. And that should matter to you. If you're looking for the right firearm, ammo, AR accessories, even a gun safe, visit the folks at Shooter's Choice on Sunset Boulevard in West Columbia. This is where you'll find the experts, the folks that actually shoot, they hunt, or visit a big box store where you'll never see the same person twice, where their only expertise comes from watching some YouTube video. Shooter's Choice has the top brands. They offer classes to make sure you develop proper safety technique and skills. Most of all, they offer the best quality products at fair prices sold by good local people. If you can't make it to the store, you can visit online, shooterschoicesc.com. They're also on Facebook and Instagram, or they're waiting for you at 944 Sunset Boulevard in West Columbia. Make it your first choice, your best choice. Make it Shooter's Choice.
Don't hurt people, don't take their stuff. Hey, Point listeners, I'm Casey Whitener, and I used to think don't hurt people, don't take their stuff was a basic human value. Then I noticed how many times our government hurts the people it's meant to protect. When I joined the South Carolina Libertarian Party, I met citizens like me who were tired of government violating our rights. I'd like to invite you to join me. On the last Monday of every month, come out to the British Bulldog Pub in Irmo at 6 p.m. to meet me and my fellow libertarians. Mention you heard this invite on The Point, and I'll buy you a pint. Learn more at sclp.org.
People today, they could spend half their lives over 50. That's a lot of living. So it helps to have someone in your corner, right here in your community. That someone is AARP. Join us for free, fun, and informative virtual events like cooking demos, exercise classes, financial workshops, and more. It's never been easier to connect with your community. The younger you are, the more you need AARP. Learn more at aarp.org/near-you.
Hey, it's the Cigar Militia. We want to thank the Midlands for a wonderful first year. Thank you for helping us grow. We had no idea we had so many good friends out there. One thing I love about the cigar culture is we all have our favorite brands, but we're also willing to try new ones too. Come in and get your old standby or have one of our knowledgeable staff members walk you through the humidor to your new favorite. We're at 1410 Colonial Life Boulevard in the same plaza as the Melting Pot Restaurant.
Everyone seems to be hiring these days, but are they good jobs where there's potential for growth? What about on-the-job training and competitive wages, including health insurance and a 401k plan? Professional Printers is looking for their next star. They're a local printer with 2 locations, 130 employees, and a national clientele. If you've got a good attitude, want to learn some great skills, and work in a positive environment, reach out on proprinters.com or apply in person at 301B Greystone Boulevard.
4. Straight down the middle. It went straight down the middle. Then it started to hook just a wee bit. That's when my caddy lost sight of it. That little white pellet has never been found to this day.
Oh, it's a great time in January. We got the golf season back underway after the holiday break. We're playing out in Hawaii, which means you can go home and watch some primetime golf as they're playing in round 2 of the Century Tournament of Champions. And Colin Morikawa is your leader, playing today 13 under par, still on the course. Luke List, a 65 today. He's at -10. Did I say Morikawa is -13? List is -10. Brian Harmon is -10. And Scotty Scheffler is -10. And Tom Kim is -10. And J.J. Spawn is -10. Jordan Spieth on the course, 9 under. John Rahm is 9 under. So you got some great golfers playing some really good golf. And we welcome in 2 great golfers to the program, Birdies and Bogeys and Biceps around South Carolina. George Bryan III and Rob Thames. Rob from Tsunami Bar Sports and George from George Bryan Incorporated. GB3, how are you? Great to have you with us.
I'm doing better than I deserve to be. I hope you and Tsunami Robbie and Patrick, all the rest, hope y'all are good too. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to y'all. Great time to be playing golf. The weather, South Carolina right now, even though it was a little chillier today, it's still fantastic time to get out on those links.
Oh my goodness. It wasn't too chilly yesterday or today. Absolutely perfect. And you know, it's so awesome to see golf on TV starting off the new year, and I can't help but look at those blue skies and thinking about Augusta. Augusta National coming up in the spring. It's just around the corner. Be here quicker than you think. And welcome, Tsunami Robbie. How you doing?
Man, Tsunami Robbie is in the house having fun, making New Year's resolutions and enjoying the golf. Just like Phil said, out in Hawaii, I'm watching it on television right now. The weather looks spectacular, and these guys are throwing some darts. 13 under, and Colin's only through 8 on round 2, and he's already at 13 under. So it's going to be probably a record-breaking leaderboard again this year.
Well, records. Speaking of records, right before we came on the telecast, Phil, you're probably more current with the announcement by Augusta National. And as around the corner, there's one tournament more popular than all the others on planet Earth. I had a buddy of mine, Randolph Smith, just send me a little reminder about Augusta and more. And that when I looked at his text, there's a guy in town named Tim Crapple. So Tim Crapple, who now lives in Ohio, hanging out in Sac-Kakalaki for the weekend. I was at Brookline, Massachusetts in 1982, watching him play a match against Jim Hallett. Tim Crapple had a putt of about 2 feet to play at Augusta, and it didn't go in the cup. But welcome to South Carolina, Tim Crapple. Appreciate that heads up, Randolph. I hope Tim will come join me now. I don't think there's a tournament that very few days go by that a young player out there in this world doesn't think about playing in that Augusta National, in the Masters event. And when I talked to Tim right after it happened, he was heartbroken. Going through, especially with his caddy, what happened. And he sat over that putt thinking about how much fun it was going to be at Augusta National. So the ball didn't go in. He did not get a chance to play in Augusta, but he was the 1978, 1979 South Carolina State High School. Excuse me. He was the national high school champion. Went on to play at Auburn in his freshman year. He was all SEC and finished third in the conference championship. I remember watching it at Westlake at Augusta. But I know it's still January, February, March will be in between, but then there's April and Augusta. And I was as I looked up, there was an announcement made at Augusta. Phil, you got the intel on how they're going to do the invites. And I read a release, maybe you're more current. I read a release that said they weren't changing their policies. And I'm not sure what that meant. Is that ambiguous? Or you give me the skinny? Fill me in.
Well, for this year, Augusta, they're a year-by-year deal. And so for this year, when it comes to Live Golf, they have announced that if you are a Live Golf Tour member, but you meet the criteria to play in Augusta, then you'll be welcome. You'll get an invitation. They're not banning Live Golf players. They're opening it up for everybody. So if you meet the criteria, whichever level of criteria you happen to qualify under, you'll get an invite and you can play at Augusta this year. Whether or not that will continue into 24 and beyond remains to be seen. But at least for 2023, that's going to be their plan.
Well, at this point, I don't have an invite. Tsunami Robbie, have you checked your mailbox today?
Yeah, I check my email, my mailbox. I check my carrier pigeon. I check the smoke signals in the sky, and I don't have an invite to even come to a practice round. But I'm all for those guys that have qualified to play. You're a past champion. You get to go play just because they're playing on another tour. Guys that have retired and they're either not doing anything or might be doing some side business that they started, but they still qualify as a past champion, so they should be able to play, in my opinion. And then the guys that have world ranking points or have qualified another route through a 2-year exemption by winning another major or whatever the case may be, they have qualified to play. Now those guys, when it comes to the next year, those world ranking points, because they're not getting them now. Those guys are going to fall right off the map, and then the guys that have won a major or qualified another route, that exemption is going to run out. And then it's going to be down to just the past champions. So, but they might work it out. They might bring their tour up to the standard where they have full field events and have qualifiers and the things that are needed to be able to subject themselves to world ranking points and be able to get in the play box. But we'll just see how it goes.
Do you think, however, guys, that Augusta National will ever recognize just a run-of-the-mill Live Golf Tour tournament winner? Let's just say, like, one of the qualifications, if my memory's right about Augusta National, the Masters, right? If you win an event in that calendar year between Masters, you're in, right? You win and you're in. That's one of the qualifications. And that's the way it's been on the PGA Tour. You think they'll ever stretch it to where if you win a Live tournament, but you don't qualify under any other regulation, that you'll get in?
I don't know about that one because they don't. The PGA Tour has that that invitation type of status, but the European Tour, the DP World Tour does not have it, and the Asian Tour doesn't have it, or the Australia Asian Tour, and the other tours around the world that don't seem to have it. So I don't know that they can just step in without meeting some other criteria.
Yeah. Something to look at down the road. George, before we move into another direction, I want to catch up on something with everything happening in December with the holidays and the bowl games and everything else going on. We should mention, I don't think we mentioned this, the SCGA announced their Players of the Year for 2022, and you can talk about these gentlemen. Sam Jackson of West Columbia was the Player of the Year, a 2015 PC graduate. And the Senior Player of the Year, Eddie Hargett of Blythewood. So those are the two individuals that won the respective Players of the Year honors in South Carolina from the SCGA.
Well, congratulations to both. I happen to know both pretty well and played not recently, but used to play quite a bit with Eddie Hargett, and I had the privilege of watching Sam Jackson grow up. Sam's a graduate of Pillion High School and actually came along as a junior golfer. I'd say to some he might have been a slow developer, but he didn't get started till late and got really good really quick in high school. Played in the U.S. Junior Championship at, in Massachusetts, and drawing a blank on the golf course, but he did graduate from PC in, I thought it was 2016. I thought he was the same age as my daughter, Mary Chandler. But he's not just a great golfer, but a fine young man. And I think he should be, based on that award, he should be thinking about playing this game for a living. He's that good. He plays out at the Country Club of Lexington, hits his ball a long way and hits it awfully solid. Obviously puts it really well. Now, Eddie Hargett's a veteran and been around for quite a while. The one thing I can say about Mr. Hargett is he never gives up. And I call him the ultimate turbo grinder. He just doesn't give up, never gives up. Doesn't matter where he is, where he stands, he just keeps going. So, well, congratulations. I'm glad you brought that out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I do want to go ahead and shift gears. I want to go back to that tournament, the Tournament of Champions, which they allowed, and this is a topic I'd like to discuss right after Tsunami Robbie addresses the preventive injury topic, because there was a withdrawal this week. Xander Schauffele withdrew, and there seemed to be some hype around it as to what happened. And but before we get in and make a few comments about that, talk a little bit about the Tsunami Bar technology. This segment is now the Triple B, Birdies, Bogeys, and Biceps, renamed by Phil. And if you go to the website and decide to purchase any of the products, that's what you fill out as you're checking out BBB. It is BBB 5 for 5% off. And we just made that up. But I just talked with Mike on the telephone. It'll be ready to go even before the weekend, Tsunami Robbie. Mike Ramsey would be the CEO for Tsunami Bar Sports. And Triple B 5 as you're checking out for 5% off. And thank you very much for renaming the segment, Phil. So Tsunami Robbie, talk about the Tsunami Bar, which is a magical product. It's live weight, and its influence on preventive injury, not just for golf, but other sports. And then even on the rehab side. Take it away, Robbie.
Yes, sir. You know, you're right. Xander Schauffele, it started as round 2 today, and I think he got through maybe 8 holes. I'm not quite sure how many, but the back was just being a little bit too much of a problem. And I have not heard anything in particular or what might have been going on with Xander specifically, other than to say that it wasn't anything really structural like a disc problem or anything like that. So it's probably an imbalance of muscular pull around the back, low back, maybe with the obliques or the transverse abdominis, and how that relates back to the back when you're doing a lot of rotational type moves. But the Tsunami Bar technology, this is the time of year to make that New Year's resolution to get yourself ready to play golf for the summer. And it's really easy to do. The technology makes it easy to do because the technology works for you. You have to put some work into it, but unlike the dead weight bar where you have to put 100% of the work into it, the live technology with the Tsunami Bar is going to deflect and rebound and load and unload and allow you to work with speed, range of motion, and more movement within any particular exercise that you might be trying to perform. I'd really like to have a video up right now so we could point some things out. That's really difficult to talk to it without really kind of studying it as you're watching it, because the bar puts you in positions to where you have to work your stabilizing muscles to a higher degree than you would if you were exercising with any other kind of weight or resistance form. And the stabilizers are what is going to help keep those joints in tip-top shape, the integrity of the shoulder joint, the integrity of the knees, the integrity of the hips. That's all increased and enhanced by use of the Tsunami Bar technology and the way that it works with you. So I would highly suggest to get on the website and take advantage of that BBB5. I'd heard about it, but I didn't know it was going to be live this weekend. But that's good news to hear, George.
Hey, thanks to Phil and renaming. I'm telling you, we're going to take that Tsunami Rocky. There's more to discuss about the triple B5, but birdies, bogeys, and biceps. We're taking that to another level. So live weight is what Tsunami Bar is all about. Phil, one of the things that I did, I was at the coast, didn't have any service, didn't have it all. I could connect to the internet, so I tapped into the radio station. You showed me a route, and you can actually watch or listen to the radio show by going to the website. How do you do that? If you go to the website, you can easily see those videos of Tsunami Robbie and Phil demonstrating the 47 from heaven.
Well, it's more Robbie demonstrating and me standing there like a blocking dummy. I'm the blocking dummy in this practice. And to rename the segment was very easy to do, because as I look at it, we each bring something to the segment. You bring the birdies, I bring the bogeys, and Rob brings the biceps. B, B, B. That's kind of how it works. You're the birdie, I'm the bogey, and he's the bicep. So I'm sure he's got some birdies in there too. More accurately for me, it should be BDBB, as in double bogey. But I'll settle for a bogey right now. But yeah, on our website, if you go to it, you'll see it at the top of the right side column, and you'll see the video that, in fact, I'm going to refresh the video this weekend with another one, and they have been well viewed. We appreciate that. And also there's a link right above. Just click on the digital ad. That'll take you right to your website, Robbie. And I was tooling around there today, and it tells you all about what's going on at Tsunami Bar Sports and about the individuals who work with everybody and about the golf clinic and everything else you guys have to offer there at Chris Road. In fact, in West Columbia, I was having lunch with the great Rick Sanford yesterday. And, of course, he of the maybe, 3% body fat.
Right.
But I told him about the Tsunami Bar, and I got him interested in wanting to get his hands on one of those things. And, he does yoga, and he does, what's it called, pilates? He does pilates. If I'm saying that right? Pilates. I'm sorry. Pilates. I thought it was a food at first, but it's a workout thing. Pilates. I thought it was something Italian. But anyway, we need to get his hands on a 47 from heaven and let him get the feel for it. We're talking about an NFL guy here who could really put that to good use.
Yeah,
you and
absolutely.
I didn't. It was only a couple of years ago, you and I played out at Timberlake with Rick, and boy, he's got a good golf swing. I think we'll have him over. We just broke ground on an addition that will probably be ready somewhere in the summer, if not before. So the Tsunami Bar Training Center will expand, and but there will be outdoor Tsunami Bar training in the very near future, and so somebody like Rick Sanford, he's climbed the ladder in age, and so what we have found is even though the Tsunami Bar is a technology designed for the industrial strength football, baseball, basketball, explosive strength athlete, I think the biggest beneficiary are those who have a few miles on their tread, like Phil, like Robbie, and like Rick Sanford. And so we will get him over to take a look at that Tsunami Bar technology. The cool thing about it is it's very safe. You can use it a little bit like a golf club. In fact, it possesses the same exact qualities as a golf club, meaning it bends, it twists, and it moves. And so by just using the technology, you're getting an orientation, a great orientation in how the shaft in a golf club works. See, the shaft is an engine of the golf club, and it allows the energy and the technical genius that we have in our bodies to be transferred to the golf ball. So we want to use any kind of, if we want to engage in a fitness technology that makes sense, I think it makes tremendous sense to use a technology that would be somewhat similar to the tool that you're using. So TsunamiBarSports.com. Click on that website. I love even though I hadn't done it much, I like going to your website to listen to the show so I can get a little visual recreation while we're listening to the great content. So
works for me, and it's very, like I said, it's very easy access to y'all's website as well, just by clicking on that digital ad.
Hey, so Tsunami Robbie and I will travel to the PGA show, which is taking place in a couple of weeks. Phil, we need to work out a little situation where we can check in. Probably, we won't be there Friday night, so we'll do a little switch on the calendar. So we want to let our listeners know that the week of the 20th, 19th-ish, 20th, I'll make the request at this point to be checking in either that Tuesday or Wednesday, and we'll be at the PGA show getting current on the latest technology. That's down in Orlando, Florida.
That sounds like fun. Is that at the is that on International Boulevard there at the Civic Center, whatever they call it?
The convention center, absolutely. And it's the greatest golf show on earth, I think. It's where not only you find the cutting edge of technology, but you see all the people, all the movers and the shakers, the one who has the most influence in the game of golf, not just administrators, the rules officials, the executive, but you see quite a few players there as well. So that's in 2 weeks from today. And I'll tell you what, Tsunami Robbie, it was fun. It was fun seeing them break ground on the new training area, and talk a little bit about how you can how mobile the Tsunami Bar is and how you can take it out as we putt out. Talk a little bit about the weight and the mobility of the technology.
Yeah, you're right. Watching the areas get cleared out, so we can progress with our short game area and then the outdoor fitness area, and then beyond. We've got there's more plans in the works with the property that's around there, along with the indoor stuff that's being done. So it's the complex is really going to be quite special, and taking that Tsunami, any of the Tsunami products, really, whether it's the biggest bar, the 90-inch bar, Speed Force Max bar that you can load plates on. It's not really the easiest thing to do to carry around 45-pound plates everywhere you go, but you carry a speed bar with a couple of 25-pound plates, you can get a whole lot of work done. You don't need a rack or a bench or any other kind of hard piece of equipment. All you need is the bar, a little bit of plate resistance plates for to make the bar bend, and the initiative to get moving with the bar, whether you're doing any kind of bent over rows or squats or lunges or split jumps or scissor jumps, as I like to call them. There's a number of things you can do just with a little bit of equipment out in the outside, which is we're going to be doing that. George and I are going to be doing that on a regular basis over there. So you'll get a firsthand look at how mobile and easy this stuff is, where you don't have to go to a gym, get into the crowd, mix it up with all the other people waiting in. You used to have to wait in line on some of this equipment, but not so much anymore. They've got so much equipment in these places, but the Tsunami technology is really quite accommodating. So looking forward to it as we move forward.
All right. Well, I know we got to putt out. Probably just a few seconds left. Enjoyed it, Tsunami Robbie and Phil. And until next week, tee 'em high, but shoot 'em low. Check out, don't forget, it's the Triple B, BBB5. If you go to the website, you get 5% off on any purchases. Go to the website, you get 5% off.
That's a fantastic deal. Guys, thank you. Rob, thank you. George, thank you. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you next week.
Weekend, guys.
Thank you. And with that, we wish everybody a great weekend. Look forward to being back with you Monday night. Thank you, Pat. And have a great weekend, everybody. See you Monday here on Sports Talk.
By the way, before we do what's supposed to happen here, thank you for pushing the button.